Good evening, everybody. My name is Kevin McDonald. I've recently been promoted to the level of emergency management by the governor of the state of Columbia. I am a former fire chief for the Liberty County Fire Department and the Central City Fire Department. Prior to that, I was a firefighter in the state of Massachusetts for 22 years. I'm here to present to this group tonight on how we can improve in our emergency management response and structure as well. I'd like to welcome my fire service personnel in the room, my law enforcement personnel in the room, EMS, emergency management personnel, hospitals, government officials, and local stakeholders from the private sector. As Ben Franklin once quoted, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. And I truly believe that to be the case in emergency management. Most of our work is going to be done up front prior to the disaster happening. And hopefully, we can make a more resilient community by preparing and planning ahead of time. So my goal for the next 4 to 5 years, number one, is to provide training for all personnel who will respond to a natural or man-made disaster. So basically, natural disasters are floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, anything that Mother Nature may throw at us, blizzards in the Northeast, so on and so forth. Man-made disasters can be terrorist incidents as well as fires and wildland-urban interface. Um, Wildland fires that may affect our communities in the future that were started either accidentally through campfires or improper burning or maybe lightning strikes on the natural side. The second goal would be to define each area of responsibility for our stakeholders, both internal and external. And we're going to build a team response network. Number three is gaining buy-in and involvement from the private sector. That's why you were invited here today. All of our involvement together leads to a more resilient community and makes our civilians more safe. We're going to improve our response capability of all emergency response organizations, police, fire, EMS. And again, we're going to approach that as a team mentality. We're going to improve those working relationships prior to any disaster or event. The time to work together is not the day of the storm or the day of the disaster. If we have tabletop exercises and training prior to that, that will assist us in working relationships and be more capable to serve the community in that aspect. And number five, we're going to make our community more resilient and more effective in response to disasters. We're going to be able to bounce back from these disasters quickly through our preparedness and our mitigation plans. So, the emergency management effectiveness basically our local communities respond to minor incidents every day, whether it be minor flooding from a flash flood or a rainstorm that comes through, to fires, to hazardous material incidents, and local law enforcement responses to public safety matters. So we're pretty good at handling those minor responses on a daily basis already. Where we kind of get jammed up is when we have our larger responses. Okay, FEMA's goal is to FEMA and the state emergency management's goal is to handle these incidents at the lowest level. That being said, there are times that we need to reach out to the state or federal government for aid, and there are steps that we need to take in order to do that. Disaster declaration, Stafford Acts, and such some things as that. Prior to doing that, we have to be able to document things properly and appropriately, and be able to show the government why we need their assistance and how much aid we're going to need from them in the future. Um, so these major incidents that we need to kind of improve on are any major flooding, hurricanes that come through, tornadoes that come through, and unfortunately, in the present world, we have some terrorist events that also occur, whether it be active shooter or some other kind of bombing or explosion event in our communities. And those are the incidents that we really need to prioritize ahead of time and have that team building attitude prior to the event happening. Um, the state the state level can aid our local communities through one our newly formed Columbia Special Operations Response Division, and there is a document that has been put out by the state of Columbia on the capabilities of that special response unit, that special operations unit. Some of their responsibilities include hazardous material response, It includes flooding response, swift water rescue, um, incident management response, which we can send teams into the local community to aid, but not to take the scene over, but just offer assistance to those local incident commanders. We also have a communications division, that special operations response, as well as public information. So we want to make sure that we have this consistent message that's getting out to our civilians and those affected by a disaster, and not have fragmented or contradicting information getting out to the public. Our community should really focus on hazard identification and initiate the hazard risk management methodologies, which include 4 steps. The first step would be identify hazards. The second step would be to assess the risk for each hazard identified. The third step is to analyze the hazard's risks in relation to one another. And the fourth step is to treat the hazards according to prioritization. Right? Communities should also adhere to the effective disaster communication strategy and the 4 pillars of emergency management, which are: one, mitigation. Mitigation is the action of taking steps prior to the incident to lessen the effect of the incident on the community. And it also helps to make a more stronger community in the future. Preparedness, we need to educate the public on possible events that we could be faced with, possible disasters that we could be faced with. In today's climate, places are getting tornadoes that didn't get tornadoes in the past. Places are getting hurricanes and floods that did not get hurricanes and floods in the past. And then again, we're all faced with a terrorist incident, the possibility of a terrorist incident. And we also want to be able to help them prepare themselves and their families if that disaster should occur. The third step is response, and that is for our end is to provide timely notification and warning to the public, as well as evacuation steps, where they can go, how to get there, and if they are in need of assistance in getting someplace, how they can go ahead and get that assistance, as well as the physical response to emergencies both during and after the event. And then the fourth and final step is recovery. We should really be planning for recovery prior to the incident happening. That should be one of our focuses, to be ready to assist with. And we should be able to get the community back to either the same level or a stronger level than it was before the incident. That should be our goal. Okay. In this whole thing, the fire department's role, other than fire suppression, obviously, which is what they're really good at, the fire department will fall into 2 major areas. First area is there will assist in preparedness, and I encourage our fire service departments out there to utilize your fire prevention and your community outreach programs to get the word out on how to be safer in the community. Community risk reduction is a big thing as well. Excuse me. The second part of that will be the response. While their major role in the fire service will be for fire suppression efforts, they will also assist with the EMS side, emergency medical services side of that response. Whether it be through advanced level medical response, that ALS level, or simply as treatment and triage officers assisting EMS and providing care for the civilians in any incident or mass casualty incident as well. Wildland firefighting efforts, the fire service will operate under the Incident Command System and NIMS. They will fall under categories that they are designated to fall under for the incident, and they'll be capable of operating under those incidents in those positions. So not only is it important to know where you may fall, but also to know how to work in that system. In the wildland urban interface environment, prior actions of the department can enforce ground brush rules. They can enforce outdoor burning rules in red flag days and appropriate areas where outdoor burning is not allowed. I know the area I'm from in the state of Massachusetts, there was no outdoor burning allowed at all at any point in the year. And we also wanted to encourage that defendable space of 12 feet around your property. So should you have a wildland urban interface fire, there's kind of a man-made fire break there between the wildland area and your home. Okay. Um, all mutual aid agreements should be in place ahead of time prior to the incident. And we should also take into account the fact that multiple communities may be affected by this disaster. So the community that you normally rely on for mutual aid may not be available. So you need to have plans in place prior to the incident, with a plan that if the community next to you is affected, you know who to call and how far out to go from around those surrounding communities. Interaction with our public partners is essential to a resilient community. Meetings, public information meetings, meetings with private stakeholders in the community, maybe ahead of time contracts with big box stores to get supplies of water and supplies of wood is going to be essential as well. Um, we don't want to be going to a hardware store to get wood for emergency response on the day of the response and have not have that agreement in place prior to that. Okay, obviously the safety of our responders is paramount. We're going to accomplish this through training, proper equipment, and proper post incident treatment for any mental health issues that they may come across, as well as for their family. Diversity is going to be encouraged in the emergency management office as well. The office will reflect the makeup of the community. It is our goal to have individuals in the community look at this office as part of themselves and part of their own office. This will encourage open communication, trust, and a team effort. Training is always offered through the state level as well as the Emergency Management Institute, um, where you can go through the Emergency Manager Academy and any basic courses that you may want to take for emergency management. It's also available through National Fire Academy for the Command and Control series, as well as the 0305 course, which is all hazards, and the 0310 course, which can get your full community response team trained on the same level by the instructors. The Center for Domestic Preparedness also has an all hazards incident command course that you can take. Local and state courses, you can take your EMI courses there, as well as your emergency management courses, the Emergency Manager Basic Academy, as well as all incident command system level courses 100, 200, 300, 400, 700, and 800. And I fully encourage you to do that. So, in closing, I hope that we can take our efforts forward in improving our emergency management and our emergency response to disasters. I thank you for your time and have a good conference.